TJ Jackson, one of the most, and this is my opinion, the most brilliant singers that ever lived, and still is today. Just like all of you who are listening, I had questions too. Not just about his family, not just about his uncle, but also TJ Jackson, the human being, the musician, and what makes him happy, what makes him sad, and what makes him feel like he wants to be human. So let's turn our attention to my guest, who has agreed to come on the show, the Paul Altman Show, with honesty, not just to talk about his Uncle Michael, but also talk about his career as a musician and as a human being. And I want to redeem him as a human being and also his uncle, not just as the king of pop, but also the person, the human being that ever lived.
You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. One of the first questions I have for you, TJ, is were you inspired to be a solo artist in the first place?
I never thought, I shouldn't say I never thought, but it was never an official plan to pursue a solo career. I enjoy being with my brothers. I enjoy doing music with them. It just got to a point where, everyone, Turo was doing his own music and Todd was doing his thing, and I wanted to pursue my own thing. So we just all naturally started to have interest elsewhere and to do our own thing. So that's what we're doing at the moment. But we will always be brothers, and we will always be 3T. So 3T is not over. 3T is just taking a break and allowing 3T to really grow by us each growing and doing our own thing. So I think it's actually, a great time for us as individuals, but also a great time for 3T to take a break and eventually come back full strength.
Right. And basic one of the things is the second question, which I don't think that you're used to. I think you're used to this question, but sorry. Because when you and your brothers were touring the world at 3T, did you get the sense of wanting to go into the same business as your family, or is it like you wanted to because you wanted to preserve the Jackson legacy?
I think it was a lot of that. I think it was every little bit of everything. When we first started out, we wanted to be like our father and uncles. So, we were privileged to see what kind of connection and how empowering music can be. We saw our family performing to all different types of people all over the world. And, it's a powerful thing when you could see what kind of connection there is between a fan and an artist. So when you see that from up close, like we got to, it's very inspiring, and it's very, it makes you want to do the same thing. So, I think that was the main reason why we pursued music. We all played sports. We were big into baseball, but I think I was around 12 years old, maybe 13, 14 when my uncle was on his Dangerous tour, and that's an impressionable age, So even though we had been continuously doing music, that was like right before Brotherhood came out, and going out there and seeing, that we were working on a record and seeing how much impact my uncle had in Asia. That's where we were primarily. That was very hard to not want to pursue ourselves. So that to me was the main catalyst. I think just wanting to be like a family in the sense of having a connection with the fans. There's nothing more powerful, more beautiful than that, than I saw. And I'm happy I've done that, because looking back, it's true. I love connecting with my fans. I love the connection we have and entertaining them and them supporting me. It's a beautiful relationship and one that I always will treasure, respect, and appreciate.
Right. Wow. You know, hearing from your perspective is really educational for me. And
Mm.
basically, I don't want to throw my personal experiences, but looking back at how I perceive the world, how I look at the world treatedly, and I didn't really like how the world was treating everybody else because how I was treated because I'm autistic, really,
Mm. Okay.
and basically how I overcome my autism is basically your family's music, and I cherish all
Well.
family's music from your Aunt Janet, who are revered, and
Yeah.
and your Uncle Michael, who is more to me. And I'm not saying this as, oh, he's a god, but in reality, his role model was Jesus Christ, and I admired that from your Uncle Michael. So when people say these negative things, it didn't really. I tend to block it off because that's not how I look at your uncle.
Well, I mean, you're talking to someone who spent thousands and thousands of hours with him. And my uncle was such a loving human being. He wouldn't hurt a fly, and he just wanted to make the world a better place. He could have went so many different directions in his career, for whatever reasons. But every single album he did, there was a song that was an inspirational song, and there was a song about making the world a better place, like Heal the World and Man the Mirror. I think it comes with the territory, and it's so unfortunate that even after his passing, we're still dealing with it. But that's just how life is. I think it's one of the biggest issues I think with mankind is that we have to find a way to instead of appreciate people like him, we have to find a way to kind of bring them down to our level in a sense, And I don't want to compare him to this, to God or anything either, but he really tried to live his life and let love guide his way. He was very compassionate to every single person that knew him. And I don't know how I got here, but I just want to say from my personal experience, Mel has been nothing but amazing. And I know him, I know his heart, and it's unfortunate what people are trying to do, but they won't succeed because the truth always prevails. And my uncle had a heart of gold and was an angel.
Right. And but we will come back to that stuff, to that part in a little bit. Okay. What was your inspiration for your latest EP called Obsession?
I've been working on music for the last couple of years for myself. I've always been writing and recording songs, and sometimes for other artists, sometimes just for me. But for the last couple of years, I really put the intention of doing something for the public, to release publicly. And I've recorded many songs. I have about 20 songs that I've recorded. They're not finished, not all of them, but almost half of them are. And I just wanted to slowly release music out and let people know that I have something to say independently and by myself as a solo artist. So I decided to do the EP and call it Obsession because really there's a lot of it's an obsession of mine, but there's a lot of things that I don't think people realize with the album cover primarily. It pretty much is all about things that at some point were obsessive to me or obsessed or I'm just passionate about. And I think it was a cool way to I'm always trying to figure a way to do something that hasn't really been done. And Obsession was one of those ways, doing an EP like this and in this way, I'm trying to be different in that way.
Right. And sorry here. Okay. My next question is that when you and your brothers were approached by Lifetime to do a reality show, how many times did they approach you until you said yes?
So we've been asked to do shows for a long time. And really, the Jackson's Next Generation show was actually, it was actually supposed to be just a single documentary, just a 1 hour to 2 hour documentary. We always wanted the show to be real. We wanted it to be authentic. We wanted it to be the truth. And when we did the documentary, Lifetime wanted to do more episodes and make it more of a docu series. And it it started off that way, but then towards the end, it seemed like it kind of got more more planned, more scripted, or more just not as authentic. And if we were to continue going forward, it would have even gotten worse to the point where I don't think it was healthy for us. So the decision, we just decided to take a break from it and not pursue it and go from there, and I'm happy with how it came out for the most part. We wanted to do an inspirational show that had a great family inspirational piece towards the end, or a family lesson, and that was our main goal, is just to be a positive influence and a positive outlet for people and their family.
Wow. That's really something.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, even if you take the scenario with my son and his hearing loss, I wanted to pursue that and make it more of a storyline. Show him at the doctor's office after, talking about, learning about what he could and can't hear, learning if it's permanent. Go really in there, because I know there's people that are dealing with that scenario, and I wanted to make sure they felt like they weren't alone. But the network didn't care for that. They wanted more, more drama kind of things, and those kind of decisions it turned us off of doing what we did. But
Right.
it was the time then, and now it slowly seems like it's changing and things are getting more authentic. So, maybe there will be something in the future where we're doing more of a real authentic, positive show.
Mm. Um, it's, I when I watched that and watching your son Rio, my
Mm-hmm.
heart dropped for you,
Mm-hmm.
and because I wouldn't have understand what it's like to go through that,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I just fallen into tears.
Yeah. It was tough. It was so tough for me, Paul, because and Rio was my fourth child, and all three were born very healthy. And you know, you don't realize how what's the term I want to say, but you don't realize that we're all human, and everyone is special in their way until that happens to you. You can maybe understand it, but until it really happens to you, you don't really understand that important nugget. And Rio's the happiest kid I've had. He's incredibly happy. He's not depressed. He's not sad. He understands that he can only hear out of one ear, and he that's part of him. And I've learned. I don't say I've learned, but yeah, in a way I've learned, and I'm hoping the rest of the world understands that not everyone's going to be quote unquote perfect. Not everyone's going to, everyone has their little things they got to get through and get over, and figure out how to make the best of themselves. And it was hard at first, but I'm doing so well with him, and I'm so proud, and I wouldn't change him any other way. I really wouldn't. It's made who he is, and and he's happy, and that's all I care about.
Right. Okay. Since we're talking about that positivity subject, which you explained it really beautifully. What was your favorite memory of your Uncle Michael that you felt so inspired by what his positivity and words of wisdom and encouragement have done for you, not only in career but in your life, and what you take from that?
There's so many. There's so many, and I think I there's so many really amazing moments with them. But I think the main one is just seeing how much and how genuine he was on trying to help people. He was really big on that. He loved to help the person who needed help. I remember being in crowds and with him, and everyone going crazy over him, and he'd always look for that person who couldn't get there, or whose hand was just sticking out, because and he tried to make sure he touched that hand. So he was just big on trying to be a positive influence and helping people. And when you see that, like I said, it's hard to not want to be like that. And I don't know, I miss him every day, and I'll never take for granted the lessons and that I've learned from him and the experiences I've had with
him. Right. I know you get this next question I'm going to ask you, but what is your favorite short film that your Uncle Michael did that made you think that while you're in your head you're saying to yourself, like, that was decent and very well done, Uncle Michael?
Yeah, I love that. I've never asked. I don't think I've ever been asked that question. If I have, it hasn't been that way. What I would say. No, it's cool. What I would say is,
for me, it's Remember the Time. That's my favorite short film, short movie that my Uncle Michael's done. I like the comedy aspect of it in the beginning, and I love the dancing. And I just love the song, of course, but I just think that one's cool, and I actually don't feel it gets enough love even today. I think it was ahead of its time, and it's a special one to me. So although I could have went black or white and thriller and all that stuff, for me, I would say it's Remember the Time.
Wow, that's actually one of my favorites too. So you have something in interest.
Yeah.
I really don't like to ask you this question, but I have to, because it's basically like one of these podcasts that needs to be taken serious. And for me, and because I'm one of those sexual abuse survivors myself, and this, people have been plaguing your uncle for years about it. So I had to ask you this question. Last year, the world has brought to the attention of a mockumentary, that's why I like to call it, called Ellen, which I'm not going to give it any more attention than it already is.
Yeah.
And what was your initial reaction to it? And when you heard that it was the same people who have tried to sue your uncle's estate, were you shocked?
What was the last part? I'm sorry.
The last part of the question is that let me go ahead and get back to it. Okay. Is that when you heard that it was the same people who have tried to sue your uncle's estate, were you shocked?
I wasn't. I was more disappointed. Can you hear me, Paul?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I wasn't shocked. Being a Jackson, you see that all the time. I was just more disappointed, angry, frustrated, and it didn't shock me. It didn't shock me that this would happen. What shocked me was the reception and the lack of care from the mass media of trying to take the other side or to challenge it. And that was so disappointing, because you have my uncle who's done nothing but shown positivity in the world. Yet you had all these outlets not caring to confront or challenge something that was said about him, something that was said about him negative, when he's not even here to defend himself. So that was so disappointing, and I always knew, the distrust of media, but that was really the first time I really, really felt it. And it's changed my whole perception of media, to be honest. I don't trust anything they say because of that mockumentary. I really don't trust a thing. I don't even watch the news anymore because I can't trust anything. Seeing how they portrayed that whole situation and seeing what they did and not allowing us to have a full rebuttal, not inviting us to some of the major shows to say our piece, turned me completely off of them. And, so it didn't shock me, though. It's what happens. People who love my uncle or love someone, they'll take extreme measures when financially they need to. And these guys are no different. And, what they were going through right before the lawsuit shows that, So it doesn't shock me. And sadly, what scares me is I feel there's going to be a couple more in sometime in the future. but it will all be predicated when they're in financial bind, and that's just how it is. It's an easy, for them, they think it's an easy way out. If they can just get the state to agree to something, even if it's a couple $100,000, it could be worth it for them, and it's just it's a terrible situation. And unfortunately, the media, in my opinion, and these companies that showcase it have a lot to do with that.
Right. And I was like, really, when I heard it last year, I was like, oh no. I'm like, who? I said, how'd you? First of all, it was one of my friends who was living in California, who was a drummer, and who had seen Wade. He had called me, and he was like, hey, did you know that they're talking about Michael? I said, who are you referring? He's like, said some guy named Wade. I said, oh man, don't even mention his name around me.
Yeah.
And,
and go ahead. I'm sorry, Paul.
You go ahead, because you're my guest.
No, it's just interesting that the people who know Wade, he doesn't have as much. My uncle, who's not even with us, has more people defending his character than Wade does, who's alive. So at some point you really have to also look at character and what kind of person each person was. And there's people from old band members to old workers to obviously his family and friends who've supported my uncle and said that's not the Michael we know, and we believe him. But yet Wade seems to have people who are saying that he's no good, So it's just interesting that's not getting picked up more. But again, it's in a kind of an agenda for the media. Their first goal is to make profit and to make you click. And, Michael Jackson being a completely innocent, amazing person doesn't make you click. What makes you click is some dirt, even if it's made up. And that's the way our media is. And unfortunately, my uncle's not going to be he wasn't the first, and he's not going to be the last one they do that to. It's for them, their agenda is different than what it should be.
Right. And, people have been saying in the media, even way before your uncle passed, they said that, you usually heard this, and, they after the money and somewhat. And I'm like, I don't know. So I talked to John Stegler, who happens to interview your brother Tosh and your cousin Brandy, and he had implied that that's not the whole truth. He said what it is that is basically, yes, somewhat you're related to your name. It happens to be the name, but, and nationally, connected to the estate like that.
Mm.
And he said that if they, which he even find it ridiculous himself, is that if they, he even said that he really thinks that you really do love your uncle, and that's the way it went.
Yeah, I don't know. And to be honest, Paul, someone's coming in and out of my room, so I wasn't able to focus completely on your last point. But I don't really have much more to say because I don't want to give it more attention than it needs to. The thing fell short of what they expected around the world. I'm happy that they're dealing with struggles now, not because, I don't wish bad on anyone, but I hope people learn that the way to propel yourself in life isn't by tearing someone down, especially someone who's no longer with us. I just don't think that's cool. I don't think it's right. And, I'm happy it didn't come anywhere near the success and people saw through it. I'm very ecstatic with that.
Right. And I'm going to ask you this one question because I have this one question. And the last question, which in your case, which is an artist, who is really humble, by the way, which you are very humble the way you're spoken to me right now, and I could tell you're very humble. Right. And which is
thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome, TJ. Which is what is your advice to give to young artists of today? What kind of advice would you give them?
Yeah, I love that question, Paul. My advice would be to create and to grow, and be comfortable with your journey. I think often today, especially today, we all don't have the patience we probably should have. And I think oftentimes young artists, new artists, think that if I could just get this person to give me a shout out, or I can just, link up with this person, I'll become successful and I'll become famous, or whatever their goal is. But I think that's a very dangerous road, because I think you have to take your journey and you have to grow at the healthiest pace for yourself to sustain not only a great and long career, but also to make sure it's done in a way where you have a legitimate fan base and you have a legitimate support system, and I think that's super important, because even if you become a huge success, because you got a shout out, or because for whatever reason, it's dangerous, because that success isn't long lasting, and I think it can give someone a false sense of security, which will contribute to a difficult time later in their life. So I would just say to all young artists out there, take your time, grow, every day your craft, enjoy your process, and just build it slowly, and in time you'll get exactly what you are supposed to get, and be appreciative of that, and just do your thing. Don't try to do it for anyone else. Do your thing.
Right. That is a good advice. And I'm especially going to take it for myself as well, because I am a musician myself, and a musician in the making, really.
Yeah.
And I like to really create, but for me, I like the behind the scenes, which is the production. And with your song Insomnia, which I played over and over again since you released it.
Love it.
I like how the craft and the melodies came in, and I like how it was sung beautifully, which I think you did a good job on.
Thank you. And no, that's it, Paul. I just think that's a super important lesson, I think, that isn't said enough, because I get people every day, many times a day, asking for a shout out, an artist. I just need that one chance. But what if I give you that shout out and people go and see your music and you're not ready yet, and they slam you? Or, I think it gives them a false sense of, I'm going to make it now. And it just may have not been your time, because you want to be prepared when it is your time. You want to have the goods and be ready. So that's probably the one advice that, there's many more I can give, but that's the one that I don't think is given enough. Just do yourself, grow, and pursue your career, and what's supposed to happen will happen. Right.
That's really good. Hey, listen, TJ, this is a good interview, and I hope we can continue our interview in the years to come with your career.
Yes, sir. I'm proud of you.
I would like to
man.
keep you in contact as well.
Yeah, I'm here. You just reach out to me, But I want to say this too. I'm proud of you. You're inspiring many people, Paul. So keep doing your thing, and you got a big fan in me. So keep doing your thing. All right.
All right. Thank you, TJ, very much.
Cool.
God bless you.
Take care. All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
You heard it first with my special guest, TJ Jackson. Thank you for stopping by. Please tune in to the Paul Altman Show on YouTube, here once a month on YouTube. So please tune in for more episodes.